So what's the fastest way to fix the skinny fat physique? So when I say skinny fat, I'm referring to those physiques where there's a bit of a belly, a little bit of lower love handles, maybe a bit of body fat around the side of the chest, maybe some moobs if you want to call it that. And there's also a distinctive lack of muscle. No pecs, no arms, whatever. Some people are crazy, like on the deep end of skinny fat, like my client Reese when he had, big belly, moobs, basically no muscle. And then some people are kind of just on that tail end of it where they've just got a little bit of body fat they want to lose and they wouldn't mind adding a bit of muscle as well. Either way, going about fixing the skinny fat physique is a little bit more tricky than just going on a diet, because if you go on an extreme diet and cut down the calories and lose loads of body fat, probably going to lose a bit of muscle as well and basically get more and more skinny. So depending on your starting point, you might not want to do that. On the flip side, a lot of people that are skinny fat will think, well, why don't I go on a bulk and gain muscle and then lose the body fat? But the problem is they're going to gain more body fat along that journey. And by the end of the bulk, they're going to look worse. Quite often people lose muscle on a cut. So what is the fastest solution? Now, before we go through this, I just want to show you a few of my clients' transformations so you know that I do know what I'm talking about and I'm not just making all this bollocks up. Here's a bunch of transformations of men that are skinny fat and lost body fat. Now, disclaimer, not all of these were that fast. Some of them are a year, some of them are 12 weeks. To be honest with you, fast results don't really exist. You can optimize to do the fastest, quickest route, absolutely, and save yourself a bunch of time, but there is no magic secret that most people try and pretend there is. It's not butter in your coffee or going keto or doing this magic fat burning workout. This one move will explode your arms, bro. Like all this rubbish people do to get attention, because fitness is boring. So anyway, let me break it down. All these client transformations, we have done 4 things. There's 4 phases. I'm going to focus on phase 1 because, to be honest with you, if you do phase 1 right, you're going to get the fastest results possible anyway. But those 4 phases are a recomposition, a reverse dieting phase, an overload phase, and a bulletproofing phase. And simply put, we lose body fat and gain a bit of muscle. We increase the calories so that you can maintain it and sustain it. If that person wants to add more muscle, we do an overload phase where we focus on muscle hypertrophy training and increasing the calories but keeping it lean, essentially a lean bulk. And then the bulletproofing phase is just learning what the maintenance calories are, what maintenance routine to do so that those people can keep the results long term. Now, the fastest way to lose body fat is just by achieving that first phase, a simple recomposition. Simply means lose body fat, gain muscle. And most men that are skinny fat, that's what they want to do, lose body fat and gain muscle. So how can we do that as fast as possible? So first things first, right off the bat, and most people aren't going to like this, you need to track your calories. Now, some people cannot stand this and they don't want to do it, and I totally get it. It's not the funnest thing in the world, is it? But once you've done it enough and long enough, you'll start to do it like a daily habit, like brushing your teeth. You log your food, you can do it up front for the day, you can do it as you go along if you want to be flexible, or you can do it the night before if you really are busy like most of my clients. Now, what this does is it guarantees that you're at the number you need to hit to get the result you want. Yes, you can cut out foods. Yes, you can do a meal plan. It's not the only way to lose weight, of course. But if you're skinny fat, a small, healthy calorie deficit is optimal. I'll give you a quick example. Let's say your maintenance calories are 2,500 per day. We want to aim for a 500 calorie deficit. So that'd be a 2,000 calorie target per day, which is great, right? That's realistic. It's a decent amount of food. It's not a crazy amount, but it's sustainable long enough to lose body fat. Why 500 calorie deficit? 500 calories times 7 days a week is 3,500, which is 1 pound of body fat. And if we're losing 1 pound of body fat per week, then it's more likely that we can keep muscle and potentially gain it depending on how new you are to the gym. If we went for, say, 1,000 calorie deficit or 1,500 calorie deficit, then we increase the risk of losing the current lean muscle tissue you have. It'd be harder to sustain for a long enough period of time, because your body's going to start to demand more calories. You're going to start craving sugar. It's going to be more difficult to navigate a busy and social life around that. And quite frankly, it's not great for your hormones, your body, your health, your mentality, which is why most people go extreme diets and crash and put it all back on. So we want to aim for a smaller calorie deficit. And because that calorie deficit is small, we need to be precise, hence why we track. Plus, that number that you're aiming for will change as you change. As you lose body fat, you're going to need less calories. As you add muscle, you might need more calories. And the best way to know where you're at with those numbers is by tracking it. Now, I don't want to be, one size fits all. If you really don't want to track, you can do a meal plan, but it's worth working out your numbers, putting together a meal plan that hits those numbers, and then monitor your progress with weigh-ins, photos, measurements, whatever your preference is, and adjust it as and when needed. If you're not tracking, you're slacking. There's a reason I'm a massive advocate of tracking, is I have coached people without tracking before, and the progress is 10 times slower and it's not even guaranteed. Whereas all my clients track, and every single week, like clockwork, we're losing that pound of fat, they're moving forward, we adjust calories, and they know where they're at, and they also know what they can get away with. And if you go over, you can actually sometimes see that the weekly total calorie deficit is still there. So it does enable a lot of flexibility, which also makes it easier to stick to long term. Now, if I'm honest with you, if you get that right, you're going to get the fastest, most predictable results possible, because you're not guessing, you're not hoping, you're not following a trend, you're not drastically dropping your calories and losing muscle, and you're not overeating your calories and getting nowhere. It makes sure and it guarantees that you're on track So tracking calories, I'm a believer, baby. In fact, if you don't know my personal transformation journey, from the age of 14, I was trying to gain muscle and keep my body fat to a minimum. I was drinking all the protein shakes, reading all the muscle magazines, watching all the YouTube OG fitness guys. Some of them were great, some of them were just trash in terms of advice. And I also didn't realize how many people actually were on steroids, and I want to do this naturally. Anyway, fast forward about 6 years, I got stronger, I was training my ass off, I was eating chicken, broccoli and rice, avoiding certain carbs, cutting out sugar, all the generic stuff, and I just looked the same. And I started to think there was something wrong with me. I started to blame my genetics. I remember having to go at my parents because I was like, I blame them for my genetics. I just thought, what is going on here? Then I realized that my calories weren't even being paid attention to. Yeah, I was eating all the right foods, but the numbers weren't right. As soon as I got those numbers right and I started tracking, bam, 9 months, I gained 40 pounds and I was super lean at the end of it still. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that was 40 pounds of pure muscle. I'm not going to bullshit you. When you increase your calories, you increase the volume of food in your belly, so you're going to weigh more. You also increase your carbohydrate intake, so you're going to weigh more from glycogen. So that 40 pounds was obviously the food, but there was also a hell of a lot more muscle in there as well. So the only thing that I changed there was tracking my calories, which made my progress 10 times more faster. More faster? Is that a word? 10 times faster. And it also meant that I was able to guarantee my progress. And I used to work as a personal trainer in a gym, and none of those trainers were getting their clients to track their calories. I went in there and got my clients to track calories, and guess who was getting all the transformations? Me. Now, I don't want that to come across arrogant. I'm just trying to make a big point that I do think tracking is the best way, and that's the reason I'm making these videos, because if I found this video back in the day, it would have saved me 6 years of faffing about. Plus, my purpose for making these videos is just to cut through the noise, all the misinformation, all the bullshit. The amount of times I have people tell me, oh, I've done carnivore, mate, and I lost 10 pounds. That might have something to do with the fact that you've cut out carbs entirely, right? Water weight, glycogen, etc. And guess what? They don't do it long enough to get the result. They inevitably have carbs again because they want to go out and have their favorite foods, and wham, it all goes back on. And they think they've lost all this fat and gained it, whereas the reality is they're just fluctuating with food groups. If they track the calories, they wouldn't have to play around with any silly diets. If they want to eat just meat, that's fine, that's great. But if the calories are right, your progress is right. So hopefully I made that point clear. Get the calories right. That is step one. There is a blueprint in my bio that is free for you to work out your numbers as well. If you really get stuck, message me on Instagram at Elite Transformation Project, or you can email me at samstantonfitness@gmail.com. You could also just leave a comment, but trying to work out numbers for a comment is just weird. So message me somewhere else. Anyway, that's step one. Step two is, how do we go about the training during a recomposition? Now, for me, in my experience, I've done 2 cuts in my time where I've tried to lose body fat and keep muscle, and I've messed them up. And I've messed them up for the following reasons. I did way too much cardio because I thought cardio was the best way to lose body fat. And cardio is great, don't get me wrong. It will help you lose body fat. But if you do too much of it, guess what's going to happen to all your muscle on your body? That's right. It's going to go, right? You're going to go catabolic. Your body's going to adapt to running, and long-term adaptation to running is not having bigger muscles. Now, if you pair that cardio with heavy resistance training, then that's when the cardio is great, because it's going to help you with your fitness and conditioning. It's going to help you spend more calories, which means your food's easier to manage. It's going to help you get more reps in the gym because of the fitness level. So cardio is good, but the resistance training is the secret sauce. That is what's going to keep your muscles from shrinking during your cut. Now, the other mistake I made was going light and doing like loads and loads of drop sets, trying to get toned, doing all that stuff that everyone does, right? Drop sets, side laterals, all this kind of shit. Still great for burning calories, great exercise, not knocking it. But if you want to keep muscle and you're doing all these explosive movements and doing loads of drop sets and squeezing and controlling 50 reps and faffing about, your muscle will shrink. Okay, some of you might get away with it. Genetics are a big factor. Some of you might get away with it. I'm not trying to say this is the only way. But for most skinny fat men, they generally don't have the best genetics, and they're kind of stuck in that body type for that reason, which is why these specific ways to go about training and dieting are going to benefit you the most. So get stronger. Lift weights, do compound movements, bench press, bent over row, deadlifts, squats. If you really struggle with compound movements, or you don't have the time, like some of my clients don't even have access to a gym, you could do body weight movements, you can add resistance through different means. As long as there's some form of trackable, overloadable strength metric in your training routine and you're burning enough calories, you're going to be able to keep muscle, potentially gain it if your food's correct and your training's overloaded properly, which is going to help you lose that body fat and build muscle and change that skinny fat physique. I'll use Matt for an example. This picture here is 12 weeks apart. He does a lot of cardio, so tennis, badminton, all that kind of stuff, but also did 3 resistance workouts per week, about 45 minutes tops per workout, and he was able to lose his belly, gain a little bit of muscle, and slim down very quickly, whilst still he actually had a holiday in between that, and he actually joined around Christmas, so he still had a lot of calories and a few days that went over. So that's why cardio can help. My client Reese, This was 12 months on the dot, hence why we did the before and after photo. His calories were quite high. He did very little cardio. It was more of like social cardio where he'd go out for walks with family and friends or maybe go for a bike ride, but it wasn't programmed in. He was doing 2 to 3 resistance workouts per week, focusing on heavy compounds, keeping his calories in a small deficit, not too much. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to keep up with the training, and his protein was very high. But he still was able to have a social life, have a few drinks on the weekend, and be flexible. And that's essentially what a recomposition is. It's swapping body fat for muscle, and the fastest way to do that is a small calorie deficit, high protein, and some strength training. Now I know this is kind of vague and it's not like, oh, here's the plan, here's the exact thing, but everyone's different. Reese's training looked different to Matt's training. My training looks different to Shane's training. It depends on the person. That's why this is not the easiest thing to get done. Now, if you want a little bit more of a one-to-one help, my full-time gig is online coaching and helping skinny fat men particularly. And at the time of this recording, I'm going to be opening up a couple of spaces in the next week or so. So if you'd like a little bit more one-to-one help, or just want to have some questions, or just want to jump on a call and discuss it, there is a call link in the bio of this video. You can message me at Elite Transformation Project, or you can email me at samstandfitness@gmail.com. It doesn't really matter. And before anyone thinks it's not a sales call, because I'm very picky about who I work with, it's there for you to figure out if this is the right thing for you. Or on the flip side, I've got a bunch of free things in my bio, a nutritional blueprint, a bunch of free shit in there. Download what you need, anything that's going to help you out. My whole reason for doing this is to help cut through all the noise and the bullshit that's out there, because I fell for it. It wasted so much of my time. And I don't want to talk rubbish about PTs, but I worked alongside PTs for about 5 years. I know loads of them, and a lot of them are great people, but half of them don't have a clue what they're talking about. I am qualified as well. I got my level 2 and level 3. Once you do those qualifications, you suddenly realize how little PTs know. They have all the good intentions, but unless they've done it themselves, they're not going to know what to help you with. So that's another reason why I want to make these videos and just cut straight to the blunt, boring truths of track your calories, track your workouts, overload them, be consistent, and get it done. And I know that's easier said than done, because we've all got different lifestyles. Some of us are crazy busy, some of us has massive responsibilities. I use my client Avi, for example, here. He was kind of stuck in that bro cycle where you do bulks and cuts and basically gain and lose the same amount of muscle each time. But he works a very, very, very busy job, long ass hours, travels a lot, works on his own car, tries to have a social life, has family responsibilities, and he studies. It's chaos, right? But that's why coaching exists, to help take out all the guesswork, help you navigate everything, make it work each week. Avi, we actually have 3 different plans depending on his week: his normal week, his turbo week, and his traveling week. So yes, it's simple in principle, but applying it is a little bit more challenging. And that's why most people are struggling. That's why there's so many pills and diets and fucking fads out there preying on the fact that it is hard, that most people don't know what they're doing. So they'll sell you a pill or powder and tell you to take it, even though some guys on steroids are like, hey, yeah, this is what I do, mate. Keto, mate. Next week it's carnivore. So anyway, getting a bit ranty there. My apologies. As you can tell, I'm quite passionate about this. So if you like the video, like the video. If you dislike it, that's fine. Hit a dislike. I don't mind. Subscribe, because if I say that, people do it. And that's it. Yeah, nice video. Good luck on your skinny fat journey. Any questions, drop them my way, and have yourself a great day.